counsel. Members of the jury, on July 4th, 2013, the fuse of fear was lit by the spark of suspicion. Let's go back to the moment when this defendant's fuse ran out. The moment when he exploded. 5. He thinks back 5 years to when the company that he works for was created. 4. He knows that out of the 4 leaders of that company, he was really the key man behind it all. 3. He's been drinking since about 3 p.m. and he's just seen some suspicious emails that he wasn't supposed to see. 2. He is burning with fear, and now the two of them are alone. 1. He's standing behind the one problem in his life, and in his hand, he holds the solution. And with a single, swift swing, he made sure that Tom Lawson would be out of his way forever. My name is Hannah Ibanez, and this is my co-counsel, Zachariah Wade. Together, we represent the people of the state of Lonestar. We are here today to firmly convince you beyond every reasonable doubt that this defendant intentionally murdered Tom Lawson. What that means is that it is our job to bring you evidence that shows you that this defendant is guilty of that murder. So let's talk about the evidence that we're going to bring for you here in this courtroom to prove just that. First, you're going to hear from Drew Roberts, Tom's best friend of a decade, and she's going to tell us about the annual 4th of July company party that Tom, the CEO of that company, hosted at his house, and the last time that she saw her friend alive. You'll learn that even though this was supposed to be a fun, relaxing barbecue outside, this defendant disappears inside Tom's house for quite some time. And by the end of this trial, you'll understand where he was and what he was doing. Because when he returned to that party, the fuse of fear was lit by that spark of suspicion. You'll learn that this defendant starts to argue with Tom. And these arguments are about emails. And these arguments are escalating. Next, you're going to hear from Detective Wortham, the lead homicide investigator on the case. And she'll tell us that throughout the course of her investigation, this defendant lied to her repeatedly. That at first he told her one story, but when he found out he was in trouble, he told her another. Detective Wortham is going to tell us about her investigation of the murder scene. And we ask that you pay close attention to exactly where Tom Lawson's body was found in that pool. This is important, members of the jury, and by the end of this trial, you'll understand why. Detective Wortham is also going to tell us about a pool pole that she found lying next to the pool where Tom Lawson's body was discovered. You'll learn that this defendant's fingerprint was lifted from that pole. And finally, Detective Wortham is going to tell us that on that morning when Tom Lawson's body was found, his laptop computer was discovered sitting on his kitchen table. And when the detective touched that laptop, it lit up to Tom Lawson's emails. You'll learn that those emails contained a private conversation between Tom and the FBI. A conversation that would have meant the end of this defendant's freedom. You'll learn that a fingerprint was lifted from that laptop. And it belonged to none other than the defendant. And members of the jury, once you've heard and seen all the testimony and the evidence here today, the moments leading up to that explosion will appear to you clear as day. When it gets late at that 4th of July party and everyone heads home, only the defendant stays. And he's arguing with Tom about emails. He's red with rage, lit with fear, and fueled by suspicion. He stomps away, and as he glances down, he sees a blue pool pole. Members of the jury, the 4th of July is a celebration of freedom. And the thought of losing that freedom is enough to drive a man to murder. The moment that this defendant saw that pole, he picked it up and creeped across that yard like a flame makes its way across a fuse. And members of the jury, we know what happens when the fuse runs out. The next day, when Tom Lawson's lifeless, limp body was dragged out of the bottom of his own pool by EMTs, there was a new CEO clocking into DigiWorks. At the end of this trial, my co-counsel, Mr. Wade, will continue our conversation with you. He will review the law, the facts, and the testimony, and ask you to use your common sense. We're confident that when you do, you will see how the events at that company party lit the fear that sparked this defendant's suspicion. You'll know that the last red glare on July 4th didn't come from the fireworks in the sky. It came from this defendant's eyes as he bludgeoned Tom Lawson with that pole and left him to drown. And then, we're going to ask you to do what justice demands. Find this defendant guilty for the murder of Tom Lawson. Because he is.